Hey songwriters, welcome back to the studio, and if you know me in this channel, you know that I love making pop songs in GarageBand. And every now and then, I like to take a really well-known pop song and see if I can recreate it in GarageBand and really kind of ask the question, could this song have been produced in GarageBand if it really came down to it? So in today's video, we are looking at Billie Eilish's Bad Guy. And bruises on both my knees for you, don't say thank you. I've heard it a few times, I know it's very popular, and I thought that would be a great song to see if we can remake it here in GarageBand. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right, so we're here at the intro of this song, and I started out with simply the kick drum, the first sound that you hear. And what I did was I chose the drum kit heavy, and then I went in by hitting B on my typing keyboard and actually shaped the EQ a little bit. And this might sound fancy to you if you're new, but basically I just knew that I wanted something that sounded a little bit more ambient and not as straightforward, because that's how it sounds in the track. So if I hit play, you can hear like that's more like the normal, and I wanted something kind of more muted. So that's really all I did. Then we'll move on to bass, and I chose the Liverpool bass because I thought, again, it sounded the most like the real version. Not bad, right? And then I felt like it could use just a little more something, so I actually layered in this deep sub bass. And together, they get pretty close. They get pretty close. So again, you can find these in your stock menu. The deep sub bass is under synthesizer bass, and then you can find it right here. So these are all things you can find stock in GarageBand. And then from there, I went into vocals, and I could hear that there was multiple voices. It's not just one time singing, it's actually multiple voices. And so I added multiple takes. So the thing I've noticed about Billie Eilish, when she sings, she uses something called the proximity effect with her microphone, where she's right up on the microphone. She sings pretty soft normally, so you can do that. You can get right up on it. If you're really belting, you can't do that. It's going to crowd your microphone. It won't sound right. But if you're singing real soft, real kind of intimate, whispery vocal stuff, you can get pretty close to a condenser microphone, and it gives you this really close, intimate, really cool feel, kind of whispery, breathy feel. So that's what I tried to do for all of this track. And then moving forward, it was basically a story of lots of layers. And as she goes along, again, she's got two voices at least all the time, but then she'll add in this harmony and then another harmony and then another harmony. So it was really, I pretty much just left the production, the arrangement, and just added lots on the vocal end. White shirt, now red, my bloody nose, sleeping, you're on your tippy toes, creeping around like no one knows, think you're so criminal. And then at this point in the song, there starts some snaps. But basically what I did for the snaps, number one, I just recorded myself snapping a couple different times. Just super weak snaps. I'm not a mega snapper. Then I actually got this sample. So this is a sample. It's actually called the afloat beat. So if you go up here to loops, you can type in afloat beat, and it will bring up this sample. And if you can hear it, I'm grabbing that one snap out of there, and I'll show you what I did with it. I actually just pared it down to that one snap right there. And so basically I'm just shaving off until I've got just that snap, and then I just copy pasted over and over until I had it where I wanted. And then I also know and that if I come into my library and under my MIDI instruments, there are these percussion kits. There's a Coffee Shop, Latin, and Studio. And so I did two different ones of those to add snaps. So pretty quiet, but you add it in with another one. And then you add it in with the sample as well as my snaps. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. And you don't always have to have that many layers to it, but when they do the snaps in the song, it's like real thick. Like there's a lot of snap, and there's even like this kind of delayed effect on some of the snaps that I didn't want to spend that much time trying to do it. So we get into kind of this main part. You can see how much the vocals expand. I'm going to hit play on it. On both my knees for you. Don't say thank you, oh please I do. So I got a lot of vocals, got a lot of snaps, and then this kick and this bass. It's actually quite simple as far as production goes, which is really kind of fun. It's kind of cool. But let me open up this vocal track and show you some of the processing. And so I tried to use all stock plugins. The only one that I'm using that's not native to GarageBand is here. It's Melodyne, which I have a video about, which I'll put in the link in the description. But beyond that, I used the stock compressor, and I have a video called Mixing Pop Vocals, and I explain all of this in detail, so I'm not going to go into it in detail, but I will link that in the description, and I think that video is very, very helpful if you're new to mixing vocals. So I did EQ, I did compression, and then there's some pitch correction, and then I just came down here to the bottom and used the master reverb. So that's it. I did pretty much the same exact thing on everything. On some of these lower tracks, I have more reverb at times, but really they're all, I was trying to go fast, so I pretty much just did the same processing on them all. And then let's move into this last part right here, or second to last part. Nickel, so you're a tough guy, like a really rough guy. Just can't get enough guy, just always so puff guy. So the thing I noticed about this is like, I'm pretty sure they have what would be called like a whisper track or like a breath track. So what I did was come in and just kind of huff and puff. So you're a tough guy, like a really rough guy. So it sounds so strange and weird by itself, but when you add it in, so you're a tough guy, like a really rough guy, it just adds something to it. It just adds some presence to it. So you're a tough guy, like a really rough guy, just can't get enough guy. And then of course there's the breaks in here where they cut out the kick, they cut out the bass. So I added that as well. Then we move along, same idea right here. And then we get to this. I'm the dad guy. So they have that really crazy sounding thing, which is really cool. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that in GarageBand. I'm going to have to try and figure it out. So what I did was I have me, just saying it. I'm the dad guy. I said I'm the dad guy. And then what I did was I copied and pasted that into 2 more tracks. I call them the snarl tracks. And so on these tracks, if you look down, they have the same EQ and compression, but I used something called the Tremolo. If I solo this, you can hear it. Dad guy. It kind of gives your voice that shake. You might have to change the rate. I think the default rate was like 1/8. It wasn't 1/8. It wasn't fast enough. So I had to bump it up to 1/16. And then I did the same thing with this one, but this one is deep. So what you got to do to get that crazy sound is you have to use what's called the vocal transformer. I pitched it down, but on top of the vocal transformer, I used the tremolo as well. So again, these are basically just copies of the first one, but when you put them all together, I'm the dad guy. Then here in the end, you have that real funky synth. And so I searched around for a really long time. I mean, went through practically every menu that I could find through bells and basses and synth leads and classics. I tried to find the closest one. I ended up on this vintage synth bass. So it's actually a bass, but what I did was just pitched it up super high, and it sounded the closest to me. It sounded closer than anything else I could find. Then I came in here, actually added a little bit of reverb and ambience, maybe just a little bit of distortion. And there's no science to that necessarily. I just started messing around and experimenting and seeing if I could get it to sound a little closer to the original. And I think it actually is not bad. So with that in mind, that is all from the tutorial side, and I will go ahead and play just the whole track from start to finish, or what part that I replicated, and you can let me know how close we got to it. I'm that rat type, like to ride my bike type, like to hit a ramp type, might just build a jump type. I'm the dad guy. Duh. So I hope this video was encouraging and inspiring for you GarageBand users. And of course, if you want to learn how to produce pop music in GarageBand, then welcome home. This is Dean from the Songwriting Studio, and I will catch you in the next video.